Okay. Okay. So let me get started. So welcome. My name is Joe Rattacco, Public Event Chairperson of the Monmouth Center for World Religions and Ethical Thought. Please turn your phones and other techie gizmos off. Please remain on mute until called upon to speak. Suggest you select speaker mode rather than gallery mode so that you can focus on our speaker. We will be recording this event and we'll post it online. If you prefer to remain anonymous, you may remain on mute and keep your video off. After the formal presentation, there will be plenty of time for you to join the conversation. At that time, I will tell you how you can do that. However, you may submit a Zoom chat input at any time. We'll hold it till later. And I'll let you know that your chat input will only be seen by designated moderators. And before we start today's Shanti, meaning peace, presentation, let us take a moment of silence to, one, center ourselves, and two, to express sympathy and solidarity for the victims of war and violence in Ukraine, in the Abrahamic Holy Land, and elsewhere around the world. Please, a moment of silence. Thank you. I'm going to take a quick look and see if Liz Congdon is on the call. She said she was going to join, but for everybody who doesn't know it, I guess Liz Congdon, who was our co-moderator for, I don't know, probably at least 15 years, resigned from the position about 6 months ago. And just wanted to acknowledge her. She was here. And Rao has taken her place. So thank you, Rao, for taking her place. It's now my pleasure to introduce our speaker. I will only point out a few items in his bio that was sent out with the invitation. Yes, he is an author and a poet. Yes, he is a professor of political science at Monmouth University. His specialty is the Middle East, in particular Israeli-Palestinian affairs, with an overarching aim to help establish a peaceful Holy Land. I will now focus on my first-hand awareness of Saliba. I have known him now for at least 20 years and partnered with him on many opportunities. He's had a long relationship with the Monmouth Center. He is one of our esteemed advisors and an occasional lecturer. He founded and led the Monmouth University Dialogue Group, which had a nice long run of, I think, at least 5 years. Its aim was to bring together Arab Americans and Jewish Americans to learn more about each other, from each other. I can tell you we all learned and unlearned things about the Holy Land, including both its history and the thorny issues that get in the way of achieving a healthy, peaceful coexistence there. We were also introduced to an important reconciliation tool, namely the disciplined process of civil dialogue, which we use often when we have such events. I mentioned that he is an author. I have read most of the books that he has authored or edited. Let me recommend one of his recent books. I don't know if you can see it. That it's Jerusalem, the Home in Our Hearts. It is essentially a family memoir chronicling the challenges of living in Jerusalem over the last 100 years. It personalizes the impacts on innocence due to the on-again, off-again conflict. Yet it also offers hope based on actual healthy interpersonal relationships that were developed across the divide. Even though Saliba and his family has suffered much for this conflict, the world is blessed that these experiences motivated him to dedicate himself as a peace builder and peacemaker. Lastly, to me, Saliba has been an important mentor, even though he's much younger than I am, and a valued friend. Saliba, please.
Thank you, Joe, very much. I'm honored to be with you all. And I want to thank you especially for helping me develop. I will confess to say that I've known Joe for at least 2 decades, but there is someone in the audience in the group whom I have known for at least 47 years, and that's Professor Sherry West. Professor West was my first professor in the United States when I came here, and I have always treasured that relationship and have the highest respect. And in a way, I've learned a lot from my mentors over the years and how to become the best professor. And she is among the finest to give to her students in such ways. And I always will treasure that. I also want to commend every one of you, and I counted there are 32 on the board who have given so much, and the board as a whole and the Monmouth Center. Together, you have given such richness to our community and to the world. And in one of the podcasts that I participated in, I spoke about interfaith dialogue and the ability to reach out to the other and create community. And the Monmouth Center is an exemplar of that. And please continue doing the great job you're doing. And Rao and Stevie, Helen and Roshan and all of you together are very, very special and special to me. And I know that Ingrid in the audience was one of my students, but she is a dear friend and I have always respected her views, and I plan to share with you tonight something very special that I've spoken a lot, but I have not had the time to doing it. And I want to speak about the Jerusalem Peace Institute, but only as one way to bring about possible accommodation and bring in communities together, advocate for the peace of Jerusalem. What I have done is prepare this PowerPoint. Once I finish, like in a few minutes, I would like to share with you 2 short videos, each of them like 2-3 minutes. And then I want to keep enough time for Q&A and answer any questions you might have. This is not so much a sales pitch. I just want to share with you because of the commitment and the type of work you're doing, the type of work I'm doing. And I think there is synergy between both. And let's take it from there. What I want to share with you first is this photo. This is taken from the garden or even the roof of my parents' home in Jerusalem. And this is the scene I have watched every morning. I come out into the garden or go up on the roof. And basically, if we go from to right, we see here the old city of Jerusalem, just a little bit to the part of it is the southern end of the old city of Jerusalem. And here we have, like, don't see it very clearly, but you have the the Western Wall, and then you have the Dome of, and close by you have the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And this leads into what is called in the farthest corner, the Mount Scopus. Next to it, you will see in like the more to the right, you'll see Mount of Olives. And in the middle of, if you were to look into the sky part, but in the middle of it, there is a tower. There are three towers. One is, first one on the left is the tower of the part of the Hebrew University. The one in the middle, which is smaller, it's the hospital where I was born. It's called Augusta Victoria Hospital, named after Tsar Wilhelm's wife, who came visited Jerusalem and endowed these things. But this is a Protestant establishment, and is very much part of the life of Jerusalem. And then to the very right of that is the Aspire, it's the church from where supposedly Jesus has ascended to the heavens. Now, all along the bottom part of the Mount of Olives, you see cemeteries. There are Jewish cemeteries, and next to them there are Christian cemeteries, and opposite them there are Muslim cemeteries. A lot of people want to be buried in Jerusalem to be close to the Day of Judgment. They don't want to fly or swim too long, so they come and so on. That's only a joke. Basically, people flock from all over the world to a city that they consider holy, and for very good reasons. And then lastly, a lot of houses you see on the slopes, these are the houses of Silwan and Ras Al Amud to the top. And some of this area is very contested. And opposite these many homes, opposite just below the old city of Jerusalem and the old wall of Jerusalem, you see the city of David. Now, it's a privilege, it's a gift that I was born in Jerusalem, but the city is beautiful, it is holy, sacred, but at the same time, there are many problems there, and these need to be resolved. This is not something modern. The problems have existed for thousands of years, and given modern technology, things become more dangerous, but the city has been occupied, reoccupied, destroyed, rebuilt, destroyed, rebuilt, and there needs to be more peace, as we suggested, as you are all committed to. So given all of this history and my interest in Jerusalem, being born there, as I mentioned to you a couple of minutes ago, I was born at Augusta Victoria, which is a Protestant hospital. But I came and my family brought me to where they lived in Abu Tor, or Athori, which is an all-Muslim neighborhood. There are only two Christian families there, my family and another family. All the other were Muslim families. Across the border from us was the same quarter called Abu Tor, or the father of the bull, literally speaking. There were Jewish families and Jewish neighborhood. And then as I went to school, I studied at Roman Catholic schools, but over the weekend, especially Sunday, we prayed at the Greek Orthodox Church. What I'm hinting at and getting to is that the city is multi-religious, multicultural, multi-ethnic, and I lived many of these aspects in so many ways as many others around. When people meet me, they say, "Where are you from? You must be Lebanese." I say, "No, I'm from Jerusalem." They say, "Do you know my relatives who live in Tel Aviv?" And then I say, "I'm sorry, I was born in Jerusalem." Then they start saying, "Oh, you must be Muslim." I say, no, I don't mind being Muslim or Jewish. I just happen to be Christian. And so this opens up a conversation, which I live as I meet people, but at the same time, I have come to study this in a serious way and get to understand that in order to make a difference, you need to organize, you need to become part of a movement. And so I have come to realize that Jerusalem is unique. Yes, there are many unique cities, and many of you have traveled near and afar, and there are many other unique cities, but I am biased. Allow me, at least tonight, to tell you Jerusalem is unique among the cities of the world. And its distinctiveness stems from its holiness and universal character. In addition to being an important place of spiritual attachments to Jews, Christians, and Muslims, the religions in it and the political aspects in it are all intertwined. And we can take sides, but I've seen people who take sides and they just keep hitting at windmills. And what we need to do is to really think more carefully, act more creatively, sensitively, and responsibly about the future of this unique city, so that it can become and it can live up to its name to be a source of peace and harmony between and among peoples and religions. Now, having been born in Jerusalem, as I interacted with people, I developed interest with them over the city of Jerusalem, and this has been on for several decades. I was born there and raised there, but many others never even saw the city. So there are others who have come to love the city from all kinds of distances, as it is connected to their Jerusalem family and to their relatives. But also some have gotten to know the city because of a sense of humanity, because of a faith tradition, because of national aspirations. Some even have done this for business reasons or entrepreneurial pursuits, and others just for intellectual quests. So multiple reasons come together to produce why we have this love and interest in Jerusalem. Now, about 20 or so years ago, I developed an interest, a relationship with a foundation in the Maryland, Washington, D.C. area called the Holy Land Christian Ecumenical Foundation. And this foundation has the name Christian in it, but it does much more than just serving Christians, because when we attend to the needs of people in Bethlehem or other cities in the West Bank, we don't say, are you Christian or Muslim, or are you believer or non-believer, are you male or female? We don't do that. We just go ahead and help, whether it is home rehabilitation, scholarship funding, many other ways. And so through this foundation, I developed that relationship, collaborative relationship with its president. His name is Ratib Rabia. And we built an interest in Jerusalem that was done through symposia, conferences, and publications. Over the last decade, we offered all kinds of such as Jerusalem, the city of peace for all, challenges and opportunities. We also have another one called Together in Faith, Jerusalem, Our Collective Home. Out of this relationship came a publication of a book that I helped edit on the Patriarch of Jerusalem at the time. His name is Michel Sabah. and he was the first Palestinian to be made patriarch. That's the leader of the Roman Catholic Church. In about 500 years, he was the first to be appointed by Pope John Paul II, and he served for 20 years. So I edited his book, I co-edited his book, and it was very well received. So this was like a start. The next one was the book that Joe referred to, which is Jerusalem, the Home in Our Hearts, which really synthesized the history of my family over 150 years with the history of Jerusalem. And it was not so much just a memoir, it was more a historical understanding of what families and people had to go through the Ottoman days, the wars of the 20th century, the British mandate over Palestine, Jordanian rule, Israeli rule, and the havoc that these different governing systems, different wars, different conflicts, how they subjected people's lives to all kinds of challenges. And it was a wonderful exercise, a spiritual exercise, a practical exercise where I had to interview family members, interview others to create such a book. Another set of publications, I was inspired to say, how do Jews, how do Muslims, how do Christians regard the city of Jerusalem? So I developed the concept of a Jerusalem trilogy, and we issued very few years ago, I'm thinking like 4 years ago, the book called What Jerusalem Means to Us, Christian Perspectives and Reflections. And we brought Christians from different denominations to write reflectively on the city of Jerusalem. A year and a half later, we worked on the book called What Jerusalem Means to Us, Muslim Perspectives and Reflections. And we did the same thing by bringing people of the Muslim faith to reflect on their ideas, their views, their opinion of the city of Jerusalem. And as we speak, just right now, we are working together, wonderful contribution from someone you know, Rabbi Mark Klein of the Reform Synagogue in Tinton Falls, a colleague of mine by the name of Carol Monica Burnett, and myself will be editing the third book in this trilogy. And we are looking forward to having it published this year, if not, then the beginning of next year. So without further ado, what I'm suggesting to you, that there is a history behind the creation of the Jerusalem Peace Institute that brought us to bring together a group of good people to say, let's think together, what does it mean to have an institute called the Jerusalem Peace Institute? So we decided that these will be our values that we want to focus on, the values of peace, of justice, equality, inclusion, economic resilience, cultural heritage, and accountable leadership. And I know these are very lofty and very hard to accomplish, but we say these are our core values. We try to live and practice these values to the best of our ability. These core values led us to a certain vision. And this is our vision. I don't know if you can read it, but I will read it fast, not necessarily everything, but we argue that Jerusalem is a gift and a shared gift for humanity. And here we're not only including Jews, Christians, and Muslims, we're including everybody. Jerusalem is truly central to these theistic faith traditions, the belief in the one God, and to others. And its soul and spirit will embrace all of them and should embrace all of them equally. And Jerusalem is essential for justice, peace, reconciliation between Israelis and Palestinians and in our world. So there is a religious dimension, a spiritual dimension, and there is a national political dimension. Jerusalem inhabitants, no matter who they are, all of them without exception, they are to live a dignified life in peace and equality, with the ability to freely pursue and develop their daily lives, including access to adequate housing, jobs, education, medical care, municipal services, religious sites, and cultural activities. And we believe that Jerusalem inhabitants should enjoy their fundamental human rights and legal protections, given the laws of the land, but also international law as enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and United Nations resolutions. So this is the vision, and we developed a very short mission, which most missions are, to say that the JPI, or the Jerusalem Peace Institute, will highlight and promote Jerusalem as humanity's shared gift, governed by two peoples and cherished by three faiths, and its centrality for a just peace. And we carry this out through advocacy, programs of all kinds, activities, interdisciplinary research, and publications, similar to the books that I have related and explained to you. We have strategic goals that we are trying to pursue. They are not easy to pursue because we are here, Jerusalem is there, but we have connections and we have good people working with us. Basically, part of our work is educative, and what I'm doing right now is trying to bring about awareness of the issue of Jerusalem and its centrality, and that it is to be shared and maintained as an inclusive center of faith. We will be seeking, and we are already working at different levels, but we'll be seeking the input of religious leaders in Jerusalem to develop a common memorandum, which we call the Jerusalem Declaration on the significance of Jerusalem, as I related it to you. We call upon relevant parties to address Jerusalem's status in accordance with past resolutions, international law, and consistent with the principles of equality and justice. We want to reach to appropriate individuals and organizations in Jerusalem to create a needs assessment plan that enables Jerusalem's Palestinian inhabitants to develop their daily life on equal basis with the Jewish inhabitants of the city, because there is a huge disparity. Very simply put, and I know I usually do not focus on GNP or GNP per capita, but the GNP per capita in Israel, give or take, is about $35,000. The GNP per capita in the Arab community or Palestinian community is about 5,000, 7,000, if that. It depends, obviously, which place they are living at, but it is extremely low. It's such asymmetry. We want to enter into partnerships, and we are exploring relationships to enter into partnerships with relevant organizations at the local, regional, and global levels, and to seek their endorsement and positive collaboration. We already are in a relationship with the organization I started talking about before, the Holy Land Christian Ecumenical Foundation, We are also in collaboration and in partnership with an organization in Britain called Children of Peace. It is one of the largest in the Middle East, bringing a neutral position to the issue of children, and that children of all religions, of all backgrounds, are to be treated with dignity and to be cared for. So there is no bias towards Palestinian versus Jewish versus Israeli versus Lebanese and so on. All children are to be assisted and cared for. Now, this Jerusalem Peace Institute has a board of directors, but also has an international board of advisors. And we began this as an organic process, focusing on bringing conversations to bear on what are the values, what is the vision, what is the mission. And we have Muslim members, we have Christian members, we have also some Jewish members, and we are trying to enhance the Jewish membership as we go along, as we try to enhance all memberships. So in a sense, it is a work in progress. Now, without distracting, let me just add a couple of more words on the fact that this JPI is tying in with another effort I'm working on, which is a confederal arrangement that is to develop between a state of Israel and a state of Palestine, two independent sovereign states entering into a collaborative confederal arrangement if they wish to pursue that. And reason I mentioned that effort, because an important part of that confederal arrangement addresses the issue of Jerusalem. In other words, what will happen to the city of Jerusalem when peace comes in a true meaning of the word? And there, the idea is to have the old city of Jerusalem, where all these holy sites are, become an open city for all faiths to partake and be embraced in the city. Then progressively, there will be liberalization of the process so that the west part of Jerusalem, the east part of Jerusalem will be opened up as well. The idea there under the confederal arrangement and the idea of a two-state solution is that there will be a capital of Jerusalem for Israel and a capital of Jerusalem for the Palestinians as well. Now, reason I mentioned this as I started is that my hope is that JPI can be a motivator. Now, I want to, from right now, tell you that JPI tries its utmost not to be politicized or to become political. But every time you speak about Jerusalem, that becomes a political stand or a political viewpoint. But deep down, we try to highlight those elements that are humanitarian, that are part of civil discourse, to bring better days ahead for all Jerusalemites. But you cannot help but to say what will happen to Jerusalem and what are the best scenarios where there is the greatest good being made or being done or being accomplished for all the people. So we are not interested in an exclusive understanding of Jerusalem, but in an inclusive understanding of Jerusalem that will honor Israel and its stands and so on in terms of its love, the love of the Jewish people for Jerusalem, the Christian love and thinking of the sacredness of the city, and then the Muslim view, understanding, and love for the city as well. This is where I come from. This is where I want to let as many people know that we should be very careful, sensitive as we discuss this important city. And again, I'm not trying to be political, but it is unwise for a president, for Secretary of State, for anybody to be making all these declarations about Jerusalem being the capital of this or of that. These issues need to be left open for negotiations to take place, for both parties to decide among each other what will be the best course of action, and also for the different representatives of the different religions to come together in the spirit of Jerusalem and dialogue together in order to arrive at the best scenario, not only for themselves, but for future generations. Ultimately, it is not enough for us to say, well, let's love Jerusalem. We need to love Jerusalem so that we make it a better place for our children and grandchildren and future generations. Having looked at my life and my family's life for several decades, what are we leaving our children? And that's so important. And for the children of the rest of the world, that they cannot live in a place that continues to be fought over and disagreed upon for no reason. If Jerusalem is to be the city of love and the city of peace, let's make it so. One sage or one wise man talked about that the difference between all these religions is no more than 3%. Why wait till the day of judgment to find that out? Let's decide right now and capitalize on the 97% that we are all very much the same, and leave the 3% out for a few years. Now with that, I would like to shift a little bit of gear to show you that the JPI, and specifically, and I'm giving credit now to my own daughter. I have two daughters, one who is becoming an eye doctor next year, and the other is a TV producer. And together we develop these types of videos, but the videos are done in a way that reflect the philosophy of what I've tried to put forward. So I want to play these two segments only, and then I will conclude, and then you are welcome to ask questions. The first one I would like to show deals with the Dome of the Rock. The Dome of the Rock is such a beautiful spiritual edifice in Jerusalem, and it is holy in so many ways. I want to play that, then I play the segment on Patriarch Michel Sabah that I mentioned before, and then we will conclude. Let me play first the Dome of the Rock.
For the Jerusalem Peace Institute, this is the Jerusalem Minute. Today, the focus is on the Dome of the Rock.
The Dome of the Rock, or Qubbat al-Sakhra, is a magnificent Muslim shrine that has enlivened the Jerusalem scenery for centuries, and it continues to distinguish it aesthetically. Built by the Umayyad Caliph Abd al-Malik from 688 to 692, it sits across from Al-Aqsa Mosque, with both being part of Al-Haram al-Sharif and the Al-Aqsa compound in the Old City. The dome, originally made of gold, was constructed by the Fatimid Caliph Al-Zahir in 1022 after the original ceiling collapsed. The decorative work dates to the 14th century Egyptian artists during the Mamluk rule. The dome was replaced with copper and then aluminum until it was covered by gold leaf, a donation from the late King Hussein of Jordan. Surat Yasin is inscribed on its bluish octagonal walls on the outside. Higher, adorning its drum, which consists of glazed tiles made in Turkey, Surat al-Isra celebrates Prophet Muhammad's night journey. The interior of the dome is richly decorated with marble, mosaic, stucco, and wood, all above the noble rock. Ornate floral designs circle the cupola with two inscriptions. The smaller has the celebrated Ayat al-Kursi, and the larger commemorates Sultan Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, who recaptured Jerusalem from the Crusaders. In the words of the Palestinian Muslim scholar, Dr. Mustafa Abu Swai, while the Dome of the Rock is peacefully quiet, there is an ongoing festival of colorful mosaics, Quranic verses, supplications, and motifs that connect the with the unseen, the physical with the metaphysical.
The Jerusalem Minute is produced by Hania Sarsar. This episode is written and narrated by Saliba Sarsar.
This is one. I'm going to show you now the other one.
For the Jerusalem Peace Institute, this is the Jerusalem Minute. Today, the focus is on His Beatitude, Michel Sabah.
His Beatitude, Michel Sabah, is the Latin Patriarch Emeritus of Jerusalem. He led the church from 1987 to 2008 through two Palestinian uprisings against the Israeli occupation, but Palestinian-Israeli negotiations as well. In 2000, he celebrated with the faithful Pope John Paul II's Jubilee pilgrimage to the Holy Land. An advocate for nonviolence, Patriarch Sabah headed processions for peace and met with both Palestinian and Israeli leaders in that cause. A pioneer in interfaith dialogue, he explained to all who would listen the necessity of dialogue in the Holy Land. Over the years, he worked tirelessly to sustain Jerusalem's role as a city with universal meaning for humanity, as the primary religious site for Christians, Muslims, and Jews, and as a home for its diverse population. As a faithful witness, Patriarch Sabah is guided by freedom, justice, love, and truth. His message to us is to pass from our present state of death unto new life, a life that is rooted in the peace and love of God, and a life that is characterized by mutual trust and respect for one another's dignity, land, and independence.
The Jerusalem Minute is produced by Hania Sarsar. This episode is written and narrated by Saliba Sarsar.
Let me stop here, and then when we finish the Q&A, I have a short poem I would like to read to you, and we can conclude that way. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Saliba. That was indeed beautiful. So I don't know if folks know this, but if Saliba can see the gallery, do wave your hands as a jazz hands to demonstrate your support. So now we shift. Thank you.
Thank you very
So
much.
now it's your turn to participate. I'll lay out a few civil discourse guidelines, which we probably learned at the dialogue group with Saliba years ago, but we've continued to use them and evolve them. So
Joe, if you
please.
don't mind, sorry for a second, shall I stop sharing so I could see everybody?
That would be fine.
Because
Okay, I'll let you do that.
I could open this so that I can only see some of you, but I'm enlarging the screen so I could see all of you. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Joe. Sorry to
Good.
interrupt.
Oh, that's fine. Okay, so if I'll offer a few civil discourse guidelines. First, be brief. Ask only one question or raise one issue at a time. Time permitting, we'll come back to you after everyone else has had an opportunity. Most importantly, be respectful. If you feel especially passionate about an issue before speaking, try this. Take a deep breath, slow yourself down, and think how to express yourself with interest, caring, and a dose of humility. This technique is not only useful for talking about sensitive subjects in the international arena, it works in your family too. So take that from heart. Lastly, we are a 501(c)(3) organization. So we ask you not to get into partisan politics or make mention of any politicians or parties. We will likely choose not to respond so as to avoid going where we do not want to go. There are 3 ways that you can participate. First, we will work our way through the Zoom chat inputs. Then after that, you may use the Zoom raised hand feature, which click on the reactions button on your screen, and then click on the yellow raised hand icon on the bottom of that menu. After you have been called upon, you may please unraise your Zoom hand. And lastly, time permitting, wave your physical hand and we'll try to find you. Regardless of which option you use, please wait until you're called upon by your visible Zoom name and then unmute yourself. And we suggest that you also turn on your video. And lastly, we reserve the right to ignore any input that we deem to be out of bounds. I don't expect that, but I always do this. So we will go, we have about a half hour, so that's great. So I'll start with a chat input from another old friend and partner who cannot stay at the meeting. So George, I think you're probably gone, but George Anthony, who is part of the Monmouth Dialogue Group. I cannot stay at the meeting. I have other obligations. We would love to continue the conversation and bringing the Mater Dei Prep Global Institute, Pathways to Peace, and the UN NGO into the bigger equation in creating foundations for sustainable peace. Look forward to this dialogue. George Anthony, Director of the Global Leaders Institute. Saliba, can you see that, or do I need to, can I save this for you?
Yeah, could you please save it for me? I cannot see it.
Okay, yeah, okay. Let me see if I can do that. All right, so hopefully I will do that. Okay. Any other chat inputs? All right. Any, let's see, I guess I need to go to gallery view so I can see everybody. I see. Okay, George Anthony, are you still with us? I see your,
Yes, Joseph, I am.
oh, good. Please.
Okay. Anyway, Saliba, good to see you, as well as thank you for sharing such vision and hope. And as I listen to you, of course, as you know, you continue to inspire us to pursue peace. And we're grateful for panels such as this. I wasn't sure I was able to stay to the end, but I can stay for this part. But yes, I look forward to continue the conversation because you know, as well as I know, it becomes an intergenerational approach to building peace and sustaining peace. And I truly look forward to continuous conversation with you as well as Mark Klein regarding the JPI initiative and bringing young voices into it as well, and looking for ways to create best practices and opportunities, utilizing all of our resources. If we can use modern day prep, pathways to peace, and UN NGOs leading all the way up to the permanent mission at the UN. I think this is something they would be really interested in, and I would love to take this conversation all the way up to the permanent mission of the Holy See. So I look forward to connecting with you this week, Saliba, and having a wonderful conversation. So God bless, and thank you again for this extraordinary panel.
Yeah, George, I thank you. You're wonderful, and I look forward to working with you and keep those ideas coming. And I am most willing to partner with you.
Wonderful, Saliba. I'll be in touch this week. Joseph, good to see you as well. And God bless. Have a good evening.
And I see Jonathan Golden's hand is raised, another partner in peace from Drew University. So Jonathan, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so great to see so many old friends here as well, especially Professor Saliba. Nice to see you. It's been a while. By the way, just before I ask my question, I think someone had said it and I put it in the chat as well. If we ended the screen share, we could all see the Hollywood squares much better and like have a better, picture of each other if we're done with the slideshow. There you go.
Good.
Awesome. Yeah. So my question comment is, like ditto, to everything that you say, and about, the importance of the three faiths sharing the Jerusalem. And I love the fact that your focus was on Jerusalem in particular. The last time there's always violence, right? But the last time there was a kind of full, scale outbreak of violent conflict was roughly a year ago when it was not Passover, but it's better. So Ramadan, right? And I think the Eid in particular overlapped with like it literally just flew out of my head, the Omer, the next Jewish holiday. And that I think I want to get it like nuts and bolts, because I started trying to talk to some people then, like there are ways, like in other words, the literal like details of how do we actually share it, right? How do they work out a schedule where, in other words, could you get people, the rabbis, the imams, the religious authorities to sit down and say, okay, look, we're celebrating here during the Eid. It's not meant to offend or to provoke anybody. It's Eid time, and we're going to celebrate. And then we promise not to, to be there like doing that. And in other words, make a real schedule, like the nuts and bolts of working out how to share, because obviously that's the big thing, right? It's not just Jerusalem generally, but that, the old city of the Western Wall and the Haram al-Sharif and Al-Aqsa, right? All there literally on top of one another. So I wonder how to get people talking about the real, kind of nuts and bolts of working out like the details of how specifically to share those sites. Because if the ethic and the is there, and I'm not sure with everybody that it is, but at least, I'll just say one last thing. I don't mean to go on very long, but many of the, like religious leaders that I know from the area, the more religious they are, there's a certain place where they do have a greater respect for one another, right? many of the imams really do respect the rabbis respect the imams. So they just need to sit down and say who can be there when, and really work that schedule out. And how do we do that?
First, I very much appreciate that you are attending this session. I miss our conversation. I know we spoke about 5 years ago, and I want to be in touch to catch up. What you are suggesting is very much in need, and the confederal arrangement I mentioned before, and I'm willing to share the text with you in English, Hebrew, and Arabic, and you can read the chapter on Jerusalem where there are to be committees to do exactly a similar thing to what you're suggesting. Not answering your question, but if people have been so good at figuring out how to fight each other, they must be equally good to find ways to collaborate and work out timelines and behaviors, and in a way, a code of conduct and a new social contract for peace in Jerusalem. And if it happens in Jerusalem, it can happen everywhere else. So I'm in full agreement with you that this is very much in need, and it becomes a practical issue to make people consider timelines and behaviors and permits and everything else needed when you enter this holy ground that all people cherish and want to pray at.
Okay. So let me work my way through the chats, then we'll get to the raised hand. So Esmat asks if you will be willing to make these slides available to the Mama Center.
Done.
Okay, so send it to me.
Will be in
Send it.
tomorrow's, in your mailbox tomorrow morning.
Thank you. Christine asks, I understood you to say that the JPI would like to be of service in working out a two-state solution with Jerusalem as the capital for each. Can you say a little more about JPI's role?
Right. There is no role. There is no role whatsoever in the political aspect of what I stated. What I stated was that I, as Saliba Sarsar, is engaged in two separate initiatives. One is JPI, which is tries its utmost not to be political, but to be more a voice for bringing people together. Once you insert politics into it, things start falling apart. But I happen to also be part of a very small group of people working with people like Yossi Belen and Hiba Husseini and others. And we came together and I edited their book and contributed what is called a joint narrative. Usually the narratives have been dual or triple or quadruple. I wrote the chapter and co-wrote it, and then I edited all the other chapters. This was shared with the top advisor of the President of the United States, with the top advisor and second in command at the State Department, USIP. We had a private audience with the Secretary General of the United Nations. All of them are on board with these ideas. And I'm not saying this is the best since cut bread, but the idea is, how do we facilitate a two-state solution? So that's the other effort I'm engaged in. So what I've tried to do is figuring out how I bring the Jerusalem chapter in the confederal arrangement to bear on the work of JPI so we can promote it. And this even is along what Jonathan just mentioned. How do we make the city a livable city where there is agreement and there is sharing, as opposed to everybody hitting each other? It just doesn't work. It is in the spirit of Jerusalem that we need to cooperate and work out better ways to relate to each other, and that's the intent.
Great. As Saliba knows, I've been following the Holy Land effort on the Confederation. I'm wondering, and I could say this is a super high profile thing, getting a lot of traction at the highest levels in the United States and Israel at least, and beyond. Any news on that? Any breaking news you
On
want
the
to share?
federal arrangement,
Yeah.
well, there was a meeting on the 24th with the president of Israel, and there are plans to meet with the Palestinian leadership and others in Jordan and Germany. The president of Germany very interested, Norway very interested, and there have been so many meetings with ambassadors representing their countries. But also there needs to be more work on this document because there are certain gaps that we are filling in. Ultimately, this will somehow have traction, and there will be other tractions as well. So we are not competing with anybody. We're putting this forward not as an end in itself, but as a facilitator towards a two-state solution.
So I suggest everybody pay attention to this one and support it when you have the opportunity. Esmat has a question. Which organizations and governments financially support the JPI?
I wish.
Right.
JPI, and I'm putting my heart on, I know this is being recorded, I'm putting my heart on the table here, but JPI has zero budget. Zero budget. It's all done through just goodwill. I dedicate time to it. Serrat Brabia dedicates time to it. We pay from our own pockets. And this is not a fundraiser, but if you know anybody who's interested to help us out with small donations, big donations, whatever, we are game. Obviously, we don't want just money coming from everywhere, or from any source, but we want to be careful. The source has to be legitimate and coming from the good heart. But we welcome that. And I don't want to speak on behalf of the Confederal team, but if you know of anybody who's interested to work with us on the Confederation idea, financially speaking, please give me a ring or just email me and I'll be more than happy to work with you.
Okay, thank you. So related question from Esmat, how will work with the existing governing organizations in Palestine and Israel about shortening the gap in standards of income between the Jewish and Arab communities? Any practical ideas there?
And financial, now that he said they have no budget.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, right.
Well,
That's for
our organization just began July the 1st of last year. And we have spent really a lot of time recruiting members, ironing out our mission, vision, and so on. We welcome ideas. We welcome people to join us. I will be, Jonathan, with your permission, I would love to sit and speak with you, get your ideas and see in what way we can collaborate. In Jerusalem, in Israel altogether, there are organizations that are trying to bring about equity and all kinds of values to the fore. And I wrote last year a book called Peace Building in Israeli-Palestinian Relations. And it analyzes individuals, but also organizations and efforts to bring about better living, shared society, if you will, in Israel, Palestine. And there are such wonderful organizations representing different values, like off the top of my head, hand in hand, a set of schools in Israel, Palestine. Neve Shalom, Wahat Salam, that has existed for a long time, a model society and model living, bringing Jews and the Palestinians together. Givat Chaviva, that has been working on shared society since 1949. Just Vision, all of these organizations have been working very hard in the field, but there are other practical ones that focus on law, focus on economic development, focus on other fields. They are working terrific, they're doing terrific jobs. We don't hear about them. We hear about the violence that is taking place here, there, and everywhere, like happened the last 10 days, tragic death of Israelis and Palestinians. That has to stop. So that also is the interest of the international community, the disparity. How do we bring about peace? You can do almost everything, but to bring peace between a 35,000 income and a 5,000 income is very tough. Put them side by side. So you need to have some equity. And it is possible because there is enough labor, there is enough technology, there is enough collaboration that can be brought about. Things are being done. And even these, what they call normalization efforts being undertaken by some Arab countries, all of these things can be reconfigured in a state of peace, that the whole Israel-Palestine can become what they call the Switzerland of the Middle East. But they're missing all these opportunities every day, and we have to put a stop to it. That's where I'm coming from and what I'm advocating.
And if I understand correctly, Saliba, the Confederation, one of its objectives is to basically have sort of open borders. And when you have open borders, there's a much greater opportunity for, sharing economic vibrancy. Like right now, it's really hard. So that would be another way to get to there. Jennifer has her hand raised.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hello, sorry, I had to unmute. Thank you so much for that. And a lot of what, you discussed in the strategic plan, particularly having to do with the needs assessment and things like that, ties right in with, social work, which is why, and it ties in with the conversation that we all had when we had a dialogue about peace a month or so ago with Calvin, and I mentioned how if I wanted to make peace, with somebody, I always envision, similar to what Jonathan had said, really literally being there right in the midst of it and figuring out who I can have that dialogue with. And I had used the example at that time about if I could sit down to speak with Vladimir Putin, my effort would be to come from a place of wanting to understand where he's coming from. So even on that individual level and on that global level, that type of a connection is, to me, one of the very first ways to begin kind of a peace effort. And so it was beautiful the way you guys, wrote that strategic plan. It was just.
Yeah, thank you. These are strategic goals that will change based on what we accomplish and keep it moving. And we add on them, and we try our best to reach out and figure out who can do this with very, very little money, if any. But also, once a study is done, what do we do with it? It has to be socialized and implemented. So all of this necessitates funding. And so we are on our way, but it takes a lot of effort, and we don't have staff, we don't have funds, and we're trying to resolve these as we go along.
Right. Well, you're getting there. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Hi, Ingrid. Go ahead, Ingrid.
Hi, I'm just curious, what type of activities does the JPI conduct in Jerusalem to make their name known? How do you spread the word about your organization?
Thus far, we are focused on conducting symposia and publications. And we have several of our advisory board members, they live there, retired diplomats and professors, intellectuals. But again, it takes a lot of effort when you have, as you know, I work full-time, and this I do after hours. And all the other members like Rabbi Klein and Sir Ratib Rabi and Carol Burnett, all of us have full-time jobs, and we do this in between or over the weekend. So, but we are hoping that there is some 1 or 2 or 10 benefactors out there who can help us out to then hire a staff member that will follow up on a daily basis and make sure things that get implemented the proper way.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is so important to spread the word, and I'm just curious how you really can spread it even further than you're doing already. It's just seems like it needs to be thrown out there to the world.
Yeah, thank you. We try our best through social media, through publications, through these symposia and so on, and we're hoping.
It's always hard to predict when something like this takes hold and has impact, but unless you keep, but sooner or later, something happens at the right time. So we got to keep trying. Like I said,
Well, I certainly pray it clicks somewhere along the line, because we certainly need it.
Yeah,
Right.
Thank you. Ari, please.
Mhm.
Saliba, I was
Yes.
hoping that after the change of prime minister in Israel, there would be better chances of peace between the two parties. Has there been more progress after the change of the prime minister? And what is the current state? You mentioned about the recent violence, but in general, have things improved after the prime minister change?
Probably Jonathan would know much more than I, but my own reflections, there was a lot of hope that the new prime minister will will make a difference. He is not on board with a two-state solution at this point.
Right.
His foreign minister, however, is, and his definition of two states might differ from other people's definition. Also, the coalition just yesterday faced a blow where one of the parties withdrew, not meaning the total collapse of the coalition, but now they can only focus on simple legislation as opposed to real legislation that will bring the government apart and will let it collapse. On the ground, there has been a huge effort on the part of the Israeli government and security services to reduce the potential for violence during these months. And there have been meetings with the Palestinians to use their influence to do so. The Jordanian King Abdullah II has visited with the Palestinians and has spoken with the Israeli, some Israeli officials who visited with him several times the last 2-3 weeks. All effort focused on how do these different parties bring about a more peaceful holiday, more peaceful condition. And that is a tall order, but this is needed, and they don't need it just for the holidays, they need it for always, and they need to work together constantly to make these things happen. And that is really proves the point that we all are sharing. The point is that when we have peace, these elements will be totally disempowered. And now they are given more voice than needed. I'm talking here about the extreme elements on both sides who are misusing the opportunity to do damage to building relationships. And a significant event happened in the Negev, on Nakab, this past few days, where leaders of some Arab countries, Israel, the United States, met together. It's fantastic. It should be enlarged to include the Palestinians, to include the Jordanians, to include everybody. So there is a biannual meeting, bringing everybody together and meeting not only in Israel, but going to Palestine, going to Jordan, and doing the tour and doing it right. The potential is there. The elements is there, but there are people who do not mean well because they are waiting for a changing government here, a changing government there, and they don't see beyond the next election. They need to think big and become visionaries and say enough is enough. We tolerated this for 140 years. Why should we do it for another 140? I'm interested in peace during my lifetime, not during some other lifetime.
Amen. Jonathan, do you care to add anything?
Oh, I mean, I was just going to echo that, you know, it's unfortunate, I think, that this government just, I don't want to say fell, but right, like, that's a real blow. Worst case scenario is, does it even open the door for, you know, Bibi to come back, right? I mean, heaven forbid, but, you know, it puts the joint Arab party in a precarious position with regard to their, you know, spot in the government. So yeah, it's a little bit tricky. The last two presidents of Israel have been much more peace leaning, and we should just, that's what we should do, is convert, you know, make the president the real power person and put the prime minister in the figurehead spot. And then we'll be in better shape over there.
Yeah, I agree.
And we have one last question before we shift back to Saliba, which is a question that you might want to rephrase after you hear it or respond to how you see fit. I am wondering how peace could be imagined without a political solution.
That's a question, yes?
Yeah, so maybe rhetorical, I don't know.
Yeah, well, the politics, we're leaving to the politician. Let the negotiators sit together, lock the door till they come to an agreement, and figure it out once and for all. And the solutions are all there. I don't want to show off, but several years ago, I met with the King of Jordan, Abdullah II. I was part of a small delegation of 7 people. We met with King Abdullah II, with President Mahmoud Abbas, and with the acting Prime Minister Tzipi Livni. And each of them said, it's all doable. We can all make it. What's wrong? What's going on? Why isn't the other one doing it? And when we even reached Tzipi Livni, she said, all issues are possible and all issues are resolvable, except one. And that one did not even include Jerusalem. It included something else. So Israeli leaders know what ought to happen. Palestinian leaders know what ought to happen. It's all there. The UN Secretary General is very much on board to get it done. But somebody is just not doing it the right way. They're just trying to become more and more sticklers about something that ought not to be.
Right. The political will is not necessarily there. And I think that's the thing that the populations need to get motivated to motivate the politicians. That's the peace building at this level to enable the peacemaking at this level, if I have Saliba's semantics correct.
Yeah. Abe, please, you have been waiting. Abe?
I thank you for this session. I'm Madhav's friend, and he had asked me to join. So I really thank Madhav for this. It's a wonderful presentation today. I'm not from Monmouth, I'm afraid. I'm from Somerset County, but
You
it
are
was a very,
always welcome.
thank you, thank you. So I have a question for you, Dr. Sarsar. You know, you had a great presentation, but in last few years, I'm afraid the whole world is veering towards right. Uh, right here in US, and you see the Russians, and even in India, people are who are not what you think used to be the normal is no longer the normal now. And the question I have is when people motivate a group of people who are leaning towards their own group, and if they have the power, you know, they have the political power, they have the financial power, and you know the golden rule, you know, the person who has the gold makes the rules. So if we have, unfortunately, I'm not a Christian, I'm not a Jewish person or a Muslim. I'm totally different. I'm looking at it externally, and I see that if you have the Christians and the Muslims coming together and they want to have equal power, and if the people who are sitting there with the gold, with the political power and the financial power, how are you going to bring them to the table? There is a whole group of people in every part of the world who are looking inward and not looking outward. How are we going to motivate? It is, I'm sorry, this is really depressing. It's depressing for me myself. And we have to come back to something which is normal, which is fair. And I don't see that happening in the world right now. I'm sorry, but that's what I feel. I'll
Yeah,
mute myself now.
yeah. I appreciate your comment, but I say don't give up. You have to keep trying. The world is different, but if we reflect on 2000 years, the world was different then, and wonderful people in our history have continued to struggle for peace, and it is a struggle. It's not easy to accomplish it, but people of goodwill can work together to make it happen. And no matter the challenge of autocracies and authoritarian leaders and mean people, we have an obligation to ourselves and to future generations to do all we can to make the world a better place. And the better place is one that cherishes diversity, cherishes inclusion, empowerment of people, enabling the development of a shared society and a shared vision for a city like Jerusalem. And I use Jerusalem, yes, because I was born there and I grew up there, and I studied about it and I lived it on a daily basis, but I use it also as a metaphor for the rest of the world. And my heart is pained by what is going on in Ukraine and what went on in Chechnya and in Aleppo and in Ethiopia today and in Yemen, and I keep going on with the list. It is criminal and evil that these things are let to happen all the time. We have to put an end to them, and we, whatever way we can, in the Bible, in the biblical tradition, it says, and I'm not quoting directly, it says, the person who saves a single soul, it is as if he or she has saved the whole world. And we have an obligation in the different traditions, not only the Jewish, Christian, and Muslim, but in the different traditions, to heal the world. Whether we tend to the garden, whether we heal a relationship, but we have an obligation to healing the world. Tikkun ulam in the Hebrew tradition is very powerful, and we need to reach out to the other and heal the world together. That's what it is about. We succeed, like, can I guarantee it? Of course not, but I have to keep trying and bring people along to try with me. And that's really meaning of it all. And I would like to conclude.
One second before that, one point before you do that. I'd like to remind everybody of a lesson I think I learned from Saliba 20 years ago. If you want to make peace, don't take sides other than the side of peace. And I guess if you hear people sort of getting too focused on their people and why can't we have peace, and they're too parochial, tell them don't take sides other than the sides of peace and try to work it out. So that's the kind of one of the key messages that I've been reminded of tonight. And Saliba, please,
Thank
you have your closing remarks.
Yeah, I would like really to close not with a remark, but with a poem.
Right.
In my third volume of poetry called Portraits, Poems of the Holy Land, there is a poem some of you might have heard before, but it is called When Peace Becomes the Holy Land. So let me read it and then we'll conclude. When peace becomes the Holy Land, on bright sky, a rainbow lights, a graceful dove finds home, olive leaves stretch from the hand, when peace comes to the Holy Land. Glistening hopes from elders east blend with Western nations, fear and sin melt beneath the sand, when peace unites the Holy Land. A shrine, red petal adorned, holds forth its walls' bright sound, where hymns foretold of sages grand, when peace restores the Holy Land. Then laughter the children raise, midst bells and trumpet blare, love reigns, such sweet demand, when peace flows from the Holy Land. No idle dream or empty words, nor deeds will break the spell, for now we must firmly stand for peace, peace, peace. Thank you very much.
Amen. Thank you. So thank you, Saliba, and thank the audience. If you're not yet on the Mama Center email list, you can go to our website and add your name. Hopefully we will have a real live meeting. We can all be together in a room and share a meal, which is another peace-making tool, breaking bread together. This has been recorded, will be posted online on the Mama Center YouTube channel, probably within about a week.
Joseph,
Yes.
you want to announce next Wednesday, we will have our Peace Poll project dialogue on peace, and the focus will be on the individual. What can we do as individuals?
Okay. What the people,
And the place to go when we'll put it on, Jennifer, will be on the website, how to link in at 7 o'clock next Wednesday.
on the Facebook, right?
I'll have to talk with
Yes.
Jennifer. And
That'll go
Yes.
on, that'll get sent, and then some of them will be sent through emails, but yes. And people can also email Monmouth Center PPP@yahoo.com if you have questions or need anything, or need a link or anything like that.
And that's a series of events?
Correct.
So, okay, great. I think that's all I have. Anybody else have any final announcements or want to just say a final thank you, anybody?
Thank you to Saliba for wonderful, informative,
Thank you.
inspiring talk.
Much
Right.
appreciated.
Yeah.
Thanks to all of you.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Saliba, and thank you, Joe, for arranging this. And I'd like to ask Jennifer, for those of us who are not on Facebook, an email to the board would be appreciated.
Yes, that some of them will be sent through email as well.
Yeah,
Thank you.
one- yeah, I just thought of another announcement. Is it September 21st, Saturday? At the Sarva Dharma Center in, I believe it's in Howell. The Mama Center, in collaboration with the Sarva Dharma Center, will be planting a peace pole there, and we'll have an event commemorating that. And because we're doing that, we are indeed motivating peace-related events, of which tonight's was one of them. I forgot to mention that, but
Yeah.
Peace is always, I think, our interfaith is what we're called, but peace is what we're about, is the way I kind of look at it. So good to see a lot of friendly faces.
Yeah.
And some new
And the event
faces.
is actually September 17th,
Thank you.
2022, during UN National Peace Weekend.
Saturday, September 17th. So you'll hear about that eventually too, but
Yes.
heads up on that. So again, thank you, everybody, for,
Just a quick question.
yes,
How
please.
many more events you're holding in the month of April at 7 p.m.? Because this is Ramadan and Iftar is at 7:20. So I can't attend. I attended today just because of Sarsar and I wanted to attend, but I can't skip Iftar after I've been fasting all day. But that's okay.
The answer is 0.
Ramadan Kareem to you,
Thank
Esma. And
you.
actually, we're doing
Thank
an iftar at Drew next week on April 13th. If anyone is interested in attending, just reach out to me. We have a brand new Majid, which is actually going to be going up in Madison. So we're welcoming some of the new members of the community, and we'll be with our friends at Peace Island. So anyone
good.
interested, April 13th, just get in touch. And
Great.
Ramadan Kareem to you, Esmat, and everyone that is celebrating
Thank you,
Ramadan.
Jonathan. Appreciate it.
So
Thank you.
peace,
Thank you, everybody.
shanti, salam,
Bye.
etc. to everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you, Sarsar.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.